Alexa, play
What do you want me to play?
Symphony Hall, Series 6.
The station Ultimate Classical on Amazon Music.
Whew. Okay. Hi, Stephen.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Hi, Miss Clark. I can hear you.
Okay, good. Hello, Mr. Severa.
Yes, Ms. Clark, we can hear you.
Oh, sorry.
I call this meeting of the Craven County Board of Education to order. I call this meeting of the Craven County Board of Education to order at this time. We would like to welcome everybody for taking the chance to come out in the weather tonight. And we appreciate you being here. And we would ask at this time, Dr. Miller to do a roll call for us, please.
Good evening, board members, and happy Board Appreciation Month.
Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Frances Boomer,
Here.
Miss Naomi Clark,
Present.
Mr. Victor Dove,
He's on his way.
Mr. Carl Ipoh,
Present.
Miss Stephanie King,
Here.
Miss Kelly Muse,
Here.
Miss Kimberly Smith.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, are there any amendments to the board's agenda for tonight? Having none, I ask to get a motion to approve the board agenda.
So moved. Second.
It has been moved and second that we adopt the January 2022 board meeting agenda. Question, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye has it, motion is carried, and the agenda is adopted. At this time, I would like to share the school's vision with you. Craven County Schools vision. We envision a public education system that challenges all students as learners and prepares them to imagine and create a successful life, values educators and empowers them to inspire and spark innovation in every student, leads in education and community engagement, and invites all students, their family, and all members of the community to work together to support public education to the benefit of our students, our community, our nation, and our world. Our Craven County School mission is together with our families and community. Craven County Schools would educate all learners to personal, professional, and civic success through challenging and personalized instruction. At this time, I'm going to ask Vice Chairman Kimberly Smith to review the ground rules, the bin item process, and the safety procedure in the event of an emergency with the attendees of the board at this meeting tonight.
Thank you, Chairman Boomer. Our meeting ground rules are to post and approve the agenda, which you just saw us do. Listen as an ally, one person speaks at a time. Respect each other, no sidebars, everyone participates. Stay on task, start and stop on time, schedule appropriate breaks. Evaluate at the end of each meeting, and if everybody could put anything that beeps, vibrates, alarms, anything that goes off, your cell phone, iPad, any electronic device, if you could silence them now, that would be great. Bin item for those that are here present, we can put them on yellow sticky notes on this gray border. For Mrs. Clark and Mr. Ipoh or at home, if they can use the little icon to raise your hand if you have a bin item, and we'll make sure that everything's covered before we leave. Safety procedures, if we were to have a tornado, we're going to split the room right down the middle. Everyone to my right would go out this door here into the interior hallway. Everyone to my left is going to go out that doorway into the interior hallway, away from all the windows, get down, cover our heads, wait for the all clear. If we were to have an intruder that was in the building but not in the room, we would secure the doors. I'd just ask the people closest to it to secure the doors. We'd alert those in the building. We'd call for help if we could, and we'd wait for the all clear. If we had an intruder in the room with us, we do have security on site, but if we had one in the room with us, we would do pretty much the same thing, alert, call for help, and then we would counter and do what we could do to take care of each other until we got the all clear to exit.
Got it? Okay. At this time, we would like to recognize all our elected officials, dignitary leaders present in the audience and electronically. Craven County, we would like to recognize our Craven County Principal of the Year, Stacey Freeble, who's a principal of Havelock High School. We'd like to, there she is over there. We'd like to recognize our Craven County School Teacher of the Year, Ms. Arnita Morris, H.A. McDonald Middle School. Our military liaison, Mrs. Leafle Palmer. Our Craven County Schools Military Liaison Counselor, Ms. Valerie Nasser. Partners in Education, Executive Director Darlene Brown. All our principals and staff, and our retired educators. And I would like to welcome all of you here tonight. Now we ask our attorney, Mr. Brian Gatchell, to offer a invocation for this meeting tonight.
Board members, if you'll please pray with me. Holy and omnipotent God, we stand before you, vulnerable to your power at work within us and around us. Like precious metal, we are being forged, tested like silver, formed by your creative hands. In these moments, may we trust that you are refining us, restoring us, and shaping us, that we would best reflect your image in all that we do. We also stand before this nation and this school district, exposed to a multitude of opinions and a host of challenges, bearing the responsibilities that have been placed in our care. Many voices attempt to drown out your own divine word that has called us to hold fast to our faith in your perfect righteousness. In these moments, may we stand firm in our obedience to you, to your claim on our lives. May the trials in our lives and the testing of our faith produce steadfastness in our walk with you. In your abiding name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Okay, we are very thankful tonight that we will have our students from Creekside Elementary. Good, we got, all right. And so at this time, they will lead us with the pledge of allegiance.
They'll stand up before they
Yeah,
start.
just stand up.
They already started.
Hey, we're Creekside Elementary. I'm Natalie. I'm Savannah. I'm Logan. I'm Annabelle. I'm Drew. Sorry we couldn't be there tonight. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Great. That was Logan Price, Natalie Blaylock, Andrew Davis, Amber Taylor, Sadaya Queen, and Annabelle Winnings. They were the one who led the pledge for us tonight. And at this time, the same student will do our character word for January for us. And we will turn it back over to them.
My name is Logan, and I have persevered through changing schools 3 times, but changing from my second school to my third school was the hardest, because I only went to my first school for kindergarten, but I went to my second school, which was Brenton Elementary School, for 3 years. I went there for first, second, and third grade. I got really comfortable there, and I was kind of sad when I found out I was moving. And I went for, my next school was Creekside Elementary School. I went for Creekside to 4th, and I'm currently in 5th grade. I really like it here, and I still don't know where the nurse's office is, and I still don't know where the principal's office is. I also don't know how to check out a library book. That's it.
Hi, my name is Sally. Perseverance means a lot to me. COVID has affected our lives and has caused a lot of changes, like anxiety and restrictions in and out of school. For me, sports have changed. I would have been able to travel, but like I said, COVID restrictions stop us from doing things. My self-esteem has changed too. In fact, it has probably changed almost everyone. Some 5th graders have anxiety because they are thinking about middle school. I get that, it can be stressful, but you need to overcome challenges. Some famous people have to persevere, just like Martin Luther King. Perseverance is a major characteristic in life. Without it, people might just give up. Hi, my name is Savannah.
Hi, my name is Amber, and this is a skit about perseverance. Military parents tell their son that they are moving. The boy gets happy and unhappy. The parents move the next day. They decide to live in a camper in their grandparents' backyard for 2 months. They move to their new house without furniture for a while. The kid says that he misses his
friends. The parents tell him that he's going to a new school, but the kid does not want to. On his first day of school, he made new friends, but he also had bullies. When he walked in the door, he was amazed because it was much better than his old school.
He never thought he would make a new friend, but at lunch he made new friends and ate with them. His bully kept on making fun of him, and that made him sad. He told his parents about what happened, and they went to school with him the next day. They confronted the bully and became friends. The bully never bullied him again. Throughout the years, the boy studied his hardest to get good grades. He also kept trying and trying, so it worked.
He showed perseverance by not giving up when others let him down and staying strong.
I'm Drew Davis, and I'm going to talk about perseverance. Have you ever beaten a video game or rode your bike for the first time and been so excited? That's perseverance. We've all persevered through things in life. Everybody has persevered a lot through COVID-19 especially. A lot of things have changed in the school too, especially masks. Where we eat has changed too. Curriculum has also changed, but that won't stop us because we've persevered through these things. COVID isn't the only thing we need to persevere in life. I have Boy Scouts every Tuesday, and I'm trying to get my merit badge, so I have to work through really hard. When there's something us Clarks want, we persevere through to get it. And we don't stop until we got it. When this thing first started, I thought the world was going to end because of stupid bat. But we rose up and we started going virtual. With COVID, I thought we were doomed, but I was wrong. They made more vaccines.
Hello, I'm Annabelle. I would like to talk to you about what perseverance means to me and some examples of how I've persevered this year. COVID. The struggle for everyone these past few years has been COVID. Everyone has had to quarantine this year, and everyone has had the struggle of knowing they might be affected by one single person. Everyone's anxiety has been high, and restrictions have been problems with a lot of people, including myself. Masks have been an interesting experience for us, and the toilet paper shortage was downright devastating for many people. Many people, including myself, have had high stress levels during the pandemic. But even with the tragedies, we've worked through the tough times and learned to believe there's a better future for all of us. Many of us have learned to live with it. And even through the worst of the worst, we've continued to work through the hard times and pushed through until we got to the good times. And we all hope it'll stay that way for a long time. Another challenge for me has been school, especially grades. I get straight A's, and I know I'm a good student, but the problem is that I'm a bit of a perfectionist. Sometimes I get stressed before a test, and I get really anxious about whether or not I'll score well on it. But in every struggle, there's a bright side. And if there's one thing I've learned this year, it's that it'll always be a better day than you think. I've gotten better about studying before a test instead of worrying about it. And I try to convince myself whenever I am worrying about it, that as long as I work hard, I'll ace it for sure.
I think that's a powerful message for all of us. Never give up. And we are living during a time with this COVID that we don't need to give up. We just keep on pushing. And at this time, we are going to go to our award ceremony. And so we're going to turn this over to our Vice Chair, Ms. Kimberly Sear.
Thank you, Chairman Boomer. And while you and Dr. Miller are moving down, we'll pull out the first ones, and I'll call on Board Member Naomi Clark to lead us through our first staff recognition.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I would ask Mr. Todd Bradley and Mr. Alan Quinn to go to the front of the room, please. Ensuring that every student who starts ninth grade finishes with a diploma and well prepared for the challenges of college or career is one of the highest goals that our state and nation strive to achieve. The Department of Public Instruction and the State Board of Education recently recognized two of our high schools for achieving commendable graduation results for the class of 2021. Craven Early College High School achieved a graduation rate of 97.6%. And Early College East High School achieved a graduation rate of 100%. Thank you and congratulations to Todd Bradley, principal at CEC, Alan Quinn, principal at ECE, and all of the students and educators and staff at these schools who are able to achieve this accomplishment together through their hard work during a year with difficult challenges. We celebrate Craven Early College and Early College East for your special recognition by the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. We are extremely proud of you and continue to strive for excellence. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Clark. Now I'll call on Board Member Kelly Muse to lead us through the recognition of our holiday card winners.
This holiday season, we reached out to our students to help spread the message of joy and hope. Students from across the district were given an opportunity in art class to showcase their artistic talents by submitting their vision of the holidays. At the board work session on November 16th, 2021, the Board of Education was asked to select the image to be used to represent Craven County Schools for the district's holiday card out of 25 very worthy submissions from 6 schools. Tonight, the board would like to recognize Asher Childress and Silas Bryant, who together created the winning entry under the instruction of their teachers, Miss Amanda Rice Cowart and Miss Michelle Cameron. Asher and Silas are both 4th grade students at Arthur W. Edwards Elementary. Their artwork was scanned in by the print shop onto the card with the holiday greetings added to the inside and distributed to over 300 people, both locally in our schools and community, as well as across the state to other school systems. Congratulations to both Asher Childress and Silas Bryant for your artwork being featured on our district's holiday card.
Are they here? Y'all remember me? Our next recognition is for our 2021-22 Craven County Beginning Teacher of the Year. And if she's here tonight, I'd like for her to come up, Mrs. Chastity Hargrove. I like for you to have to stare at everyone while I read it. Yeah, there we go. And you guys can all stare at her and give her good vibes while I read this because it's a wonderful write-up. 2021-22 Craven County Beginning Teacher of the Year is no ordinary beginning teacher. Mrs. Chastity Hargrove, 1st grade teacher at Arthur Edwards Elementary, has proven herself to be so much more. She has exceeded expectations as a regular education teacher and proven herself to be a leader in the profession. Chastity displays a strong desire not to be complacent and strives every day to be better than the day before. Her love for children shines in the classroom as she models love and respect to all while holding her students to the same expectation. Chastity's ability to connect with her students is superior. She takes the time to build relationships with each one. In addition, she establishes camaraderie and has wonderful rapport with her colleagues and parents. She's created an effective professional learning community at her school that works together for the best interest of her students as well as all the students at Arthur Edwards. These qualities are documented to be seen daily, as noted from her principal, colleagues, and parents. Mrs. Thompson, principal at AWE, stated, "Chastity Hargrove is an amazing first grade teacher. She is passionate about growing the whole child." Mrs. Hargrove is in her second year here at AWE. She came to us as a parent, and we were very excited last year when she applied to join our family as a teacher. She takes new ideas that will influence the way her students learn and incorporates those ideas into the working systems in her classroom. Parents have stated that she is the reason their child is successful in school. Teachers have said that she has the natural gift of teaching. She's an inspiration to beginning and veteran teachers. Mrs. Jennifer Curry, her colleague and parent, shared how Mrs. Hargrove leads the teaching profession as a veteran despite her beginning teacher status. She raises the confidence of the most reluctant learners and leaves her students longing to attend school each day. As a parent, she has transformed my struggling learner school experience into one full of promise and achievement. Her enthusiasm to reach the whole child and ability to connect with all children is commendable. She informs her classroom instruction based on data and differentiates to meet the unique needs of all of her students. As a colleague, she expresses her enthusiasm for teaching by sharing strategies and proven methods to improve instruction across grade levels. Mrs. Hargrove is committed to the success of students at AWE, not just those sitting in her classroom. Chastity Hargrove is an asset to the students, parents, and staff at AWE, and there is no one more deserving of the recognition of Beginning Teacher of the Year. Tonight, we would like to congratulate Mrs. Chastity Hargrove for this very deserving recognition. We are proud of you and all you have accomplished as you support Arthur W. Edwards Wildcats in reaching great success. Continue to let your passion drive your work in creating a culture of excellence for the staff, students, and this says Havelock community, and I'm Havelock girl, but I gotta say for Craven County too. So, thank you. Carried away. Okay. And now I'll call on Board Member Carr Ipock to recognize the 2021-22 Exceptional Children Educator of Excellence.
Thank you. Is Rachel Donnelly, Mrs. Rachel Donnelly present? If she is, oh, thank you. Please come to the front. It is with great pride that we recognize Rachel Donnelly, EC teacher at Trent Park Elementary School, for the 2021-22 EC Educator of Excellence Award. Mrs. Donnelly personifies the definition of the title Educator of Excellence. She uses data-driven instruction through her day-to-day operations. Mrs. Donnelly supports not only her EC students, but all students in her school. She works with teachers and other staff to support their needs in the general education classroom. Mrs. Donnelly is a member of the school improvement team and the school MTSS, multi-tiered system, system of support, thank you, team at her school. She participates in grade level PLCs to make sure she aligns her instruction to that of the core instructional needs of the general education classroom. She uses a continuous improvement process in her classroom with her SPIRE groups to ensure she is doing everything she can to move students and close the achievement gaps. Not only does Mrs. Donnelly work as an effective teacher, but she is also willing to share her knowledge with others. Mrs. Donnelly is an asset to the team in Craven County. And tonight, we congratulate Mrs. Donnelly for this very deserved recognition. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Ipock. And now I'll call on Board Member Stephanie King to recognize the 2021-22 NCEL Teacher Network Leadership Team.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Craven County Schools, I'm sorry, is Mr. Anthony Nesbitt or Miss Kathleen Brinson here? I didn't think I saw Miss. Okay, Miss Brinson's coming. She's not. You coming on behalf. I was about to say that doesn't look like her. Thank you. Craven County Schools and the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, English as a Second Language, also known as ESL, Title III team congratulate Mr. Anthony Nesbitt and Mrs. Kathleen Brinson on their recent appointments as members of the 2021-22 NCEL Teacher Network Leadership Team. Mr. Nesbitt and Mrs. Brinson are a part of the Craven County Schools ESL team working to support the English learners at our schools. Mr. Nesbitt has been reappointed after serving on this team since 2019. Over the next year, this team of educators on the NCEL Teacher Network Leadership Team will collaborate and design a variety of networking and leadership opportunities. This collaboration will support growth that can be brought back to our school community to build capacity for our English learners and their families and caregivers. So on tonight, please join us in celebrating this achievement with Mr. Nesbitt and Mrs. Brinson and our entire school community. Thank you again.
Thank you, Ms. King. And now I'm going to recognize Board Member Victor Dove to recognize Craven County Schools nurses.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair, Miss Kimberly Smith, and good evening to everyone else.
Good evening.
Tonight, I would like to recognize Craven County school nurses for their commitment to keeping our students and staff safe and healthy throughout this year. Our CCS school nurses have served and continue to serve on the front line since the beginning of this pandemic, and they are our heroes. They are the heroes of our communities. They are the heroes of each and every family of our system. We know that's not an easy task. Each of these nurses have touched the lives of our students, staff, and our communities. With perseverance, resilience, dignity, and professionalism, they have remained focused on every challenge that has been sent their way. The school nurse's job is never done. And tonight, we would like to share a message that these nurses communicated to their staff when this pandemic began in 2020. And they were told, as we prepare to open our schools for the school year, we would like to share with you our sincere appreciation for your patience as we have created plans together to make our schools a safe environment for students to learn and for employees to work. Education as we know it has changed significantly since the spring of 2020, but our mission and vision remain the same. We know you are concerned about our students and your health as we return to school in the coming weeks. We are too. Our school leaders have spent many hours evaluating data from health officials to create a plan that will help keep all of us safe. Our commitment is to establish protocols that will keep our students and staff in school. We have no doubt that together we will rise to meet the challenges that we are facing through your cooperation, flexibility, and grace. Thank you so much, and let's make it a great year. Your Craven County School Nurse Team. Again, we would like to thank all of you all for the jobs that you have done and continue to do to ensure that our students and staff are safe and healthy. Therefore, tonight we recognize the efforts of this amazing team. And I would like to recognize Nurse Megan Rizzle. Megan. I did say Megan. From Bangor Elementary. Will we do all in one? Okay, Jennifer Barnes of Arthur Edwards Elementary. And Brenda Moore from Ben D. Quinn Elementary. Rachel Joyner Jones from Bridgeton Elementary. Kelsey Toller of Branson Memorial Elementary. Jennifer Schwarnorenberg. Was it pretty good? I believe in phonics. Snoring bird, okay, snoring bird. From Creekside Elementary, Julie Osmanovic of Graham A. Barton Elementary, Abby Cully of Havelock Elementary, Cheryl Salter of J.T. Barber Elementary, Kathy Dunham of James W. Smith Elementary, Susan Scott of Oaks Road Academy, Tandra Gardner of Roger Bell New Tech Academy, Stephanie Hargett, Trent Park Elementary, Ashley Lewis of Vanceboro Farm Life Elementary, Hannah Noble of W.J. Gerganis Elementary, Eileen Green of Grover C. Fields Middle School, Shanetta McCormick of H.J. McDonald and Craven Early College, Jamie Beach of Havelock Middle and Early College East, Shannon Salter of Tucker Creek Middle, Stephanie Utley of West Craven Middle, Christina Woods of Havelock High, Kim Howard of New Bern High, Joanna Mullins of New Bern High, Janice Dixon of West Craven High, and last but definitely not least, Miss Luann Mack, our district lead nurse. We'd just like to thank and give them all a round of applause. Doing one of the toughest jobs in our district right now. We thank you for your resilience and everything you do. And may God continue to bless you all. Yeah, I added that.
And while they're organizing for this picture, I do want to point out that we're not going to stop for a break like we normally do after recognitions. So if you need to leave and you need to go home and take care of things, please do that after these nurses are done being recognized. These are the ones for the students. I'm gonna get that nurse to take it. Which school?
Creekside.
Anyone here?
Creekside nurse. Miss Creekside nurse.
We want to send the certificates for your students.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Oh, this is already gone.
Okay, we'll get them in.
We'll get them. And you know that was good, because you know that really was good.
Yeah. We'll get you the other ones that weren't here, ma'am.
Thank you. Here she is. She back.
Oh, yes.
Oh, gotcha.
Not today.
We wanted you to practice saying your name again for us.
We want you to be
Thank you.
our post lady today. Thank you. At this time, I would like to ask Vice Chair if we have anyone for public input.
Chairman Bimmer, we need to approve our minutes and closed session minutes first.
Oh,
Our, yeah, we have to, at least that's on my agenda. Yeah.
okay.
That's one item you didn't take care of.
That's one thing. Okay,
Okay.
that's what I was thinking. Okay. All right, Dr. Miller recommends that the Board of Education approve the board meeting minutes for the following meeting dates, December 14th. And this was the Board of Education closed session meeting minutes. So I need to get a motion to approve the board meeting minutes for the closed session.
So moved. Second.
It has been moved in second that
Clarify, this is regular or closed? You said closed session, but we're approving the regular minutes, right?
I'm reading this, it's closed session right now. We can come back to that.
I have both on mine. So that's why I was confused.
I just have closed session.
Okay,
I come back to it. Let's do
Okay.
the closed session, then I
Okay.
come back to it. So all those in favor of approving the minutes for the closed session, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Aye has it, and ayes have it, and the minutes are approved. And at this time, I need to get a motion to approve the board meeting minutes for the following dates for December 14th for the board work session meeting minutes.
So
Also,
moved.
It had been moved and second that we approve the board work session meeting minutes for December 14th. Are you ready for the question? Let it be known by all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Aye has it, the minutes, all these meetings have been approved, the minutes have been approved. You get everything that time?
Yes, I'm
We good?
sorry. I was trying.
Oh, that's fine.
It's a crazy day, but I would like to ask Mr. Gatchell, we still have some outstanding closed session minutes, so we'll be expecting those soon. Thank you.
And at this time, we would like to, you said you do have someone for
We do
public
have
input?
some public input. We sure do.
And I would like to, before we begin our public input, I would like to say that we would like to maintain the same level of dignity and respect that we did the last meeting for our public input. We are all here for the same reason, to decide what is best for our children. And I believe that when we respect each other, no matter whether we agree or disagree with what they're saying. So let us help maintain that same level of dignity and respect. And so now we're ready for our first person.
Thank you. Our first speaker is Brendan Schultz. Mr. Gatchell is keeping the overall time for us. And Brendan, you'll see the clock up ticking for you.
Greetings to the board, those sitting in the room and those watching at home. I'm Brendan Schultz, a student attending West Craven High and an active participant of JROTC. I'm here today to address the topic of mask mandates, as well as give you a student's insight, as well as a teacher's input on this topic. I've interviewed teachers in the local education system and the data given from here on will be based on these interviews. Now, first, I'll give you my opinion and personal experience on this topic. So you see, when everyone is wearing masks, it creates this air of social disconnection. It's very hard to describe. They don't talk or interact as much, and it often leads to a very monotonous, almost depressing atmosphere. It's not fun being unable to see your friend's face or smile at a joke because most expression simply doesn't get across. You never really think about how much expression and emotion is conveyed to their face until it's taken away. But I digress. Now over to the teacher's side of things. Interviewing these teachers, I've noticed multiple patterns, a big one being the very constant interruption of class to correct a student's mask. The average number of times a teacher had to interrupt class for a mask was 17 times per hour. This is very distracting for both the teacher and the class and is a serious issue. Another topic mentioned by the majority of the teachers is a social barrier that is formed as a byproduct of these masks, which agrees with my personal experience. Some have mentioned that it's incredibly hard for new students to form friendships and acquaintances as a result of this, which can lead to mental health problems down the road. The final topic I'll be covering was a primary topic mentioned by nearly all the teachers, and that is the impairment of teaching due to the masks. As described to me, the ability to see students' faces has a large impact on how they continue teaching the class. If the class isn't understanding the material, the teacher can clearly see this on their faces and will try a different or reinforced approach. They can also single out and personally help students who clearly aren't getting it. Without this link, it becomes more difficult to properly connect to the students and effectively deliver their lessons. They are often left wondering at the end of class if their lessons truly stuck with their students. Based on this opinion of the teachers and myself, I believe masks should be optional, and I yield the rest of my time back to Madam Chairperson.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Luther Jones.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education, viewers in the room, and those at home. I am Luther Jones. I'm a current junior in the school system who is involved in extracurricular activities such as West Craven High, USAF JROTC, Squadron Commander, drumline tenor, quad player in marching band and indoor percussion, as well as being all-district timpanist and one of the top 5 all-state timpanist auditioners, and learning the trade of welding through the Craven Community College program. I stand before you once more to share my thoughts about masks, as well as a few facts and publications. Firstly, I would like to point out the uptick in numbers. According to the World Health Organization Weekly Epidemiological Report, a number of new COVID-19 infections documented worldwide from December 27th to January 2nd, 2022, jumped by 71% from the previous week, and the numbers continue to rise daily. Before masks were remandated throughout counties, we were told if the number of cases decreased, masks would prove to be effective in everyday use. People are becoming infected in the workplace, schools, and everyday life as a result of the opposite numbers. The mask mandate appears to be ineffective in slowing the spread of the strain. On top of the statement, the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, cloth face masks are largely ineffective against the prevention of the Omicron coronavirus variant. I also got information and input from students and staff in addition to Mr. Schultz. Class teachers have been short of designated instructors in classes since masks were remandated throughout the county owing to quarantine periods. Teachers and substitutes are both in low supply because of the shortage of teachers. Pupils are forced to merge into other classes with comparable subjects. Our classrooms are crowded with our own children, but also children from other classes. Many faculties have noted leaving the possibility of rising COVID numbers. Mental health is still a concerning issue. As you are aware, North Carolina received a grade of D on an annual report card for our youth mental health. Furthermore, according to the results published in the CDC's Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report, that trend seems to continue into the recently completed academic year, as visits were up by 39.1% this winter compared to the previous winters. Young persons might represent a group at a high risk because they have been particularly affected by mitigations measured, such as physical distance, including a lack of connectedness to schools, teachers, and peers, barriers to mental health treatment, increase in substance use, and anxiety about family health and economic problems, which are all risk factors for suicide. Following the fact there are a 22.3% increase in ER visits for suspected suicides by minor of ages 12 to 17 in summer of 2020 compared to 2019, and yet again continue to rise into 2022. The points brought up by Mr. Schultz speech backs to the quote of the CDC's Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report, including a lack of connectedness to schools, teachers, and peers. We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality. I yield the rest of my remaining time back to Madam Chairperson.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Our next speaker is Scott Farrar.
Good evening. I'll try to be brief tonight. Try. After the last meeting on the 6th, it became clear, hearing repeatedly, that we are going to follow the science, that the preponderance of board members aren't particularly well read on the actual science surrounding these contentious issues. When examining scientific evidence and attempting to draw conclusions from that evidence, and more importantly, implementing policies based on said evidence, it is critically important to do two things. One is to evaluate the conclusions that the scientific evidence draws. The second, arguably more important step, is to determine the significance and the impact of those conclusions on policy decisions. In the case of COVID-related school policies, the evidence has been clear for some time to anyone that is actually willing to read the science. However, the significance of that evidence has been largely ignored at best or manipulated at worst. So tonight I was going to print off a ream of studies to bring along for your reading pleasure, but with my actual job and pending inclement weather, I was not able to. Instead, I have one simple article authored by a PhD in biochemistry and molecular biology, which I'll give to you in a minute. Read it or don't, but there are over 200 references cited if you care to dig a little bit deeper. Nevertheless, I pose a rhetorical question. How many actual scientific studies have you read? Not summaries or commentary, but actual studies. How many professional journal articles? How many sources or references for those studies and articles have you looked at? How many resources have you analyzed that support a conclusion different from your own or the prevailing narrative? If the answer is zero or very few, then given the importance of this issue to the community, you're failing your constituents. Worse, you're failing the students of Craven County. The actual scientific evidence is actually pretty clear. Schools are relatively safe places regarding COVID, certainly safer than the surrounding community. Masks provide little, if any, benefit. Masks also cause measurable harm, both directly and indirectly. The overwhelming majority of COVID transmission happens outside of school settings. That is why, contrary to your opinions at the last board meeting, the policies outside of school should inform your policies inside of school. You can, as you have chosen to do, implement policies in a vacuum, but you cannot implement those policies in a vacuum and then expect that they will have the desired effect. As elected officials, you cannot blindly put your faith in bureaucratic institutions. The so-called experts and institutions have clearly abdicated their responsibility to fairly examine and evaluate scientific evidence, especially new evidence that runs counter to previous policy decisions or desired narratives. And to the grave detriment of society, the policymakers in general have also abdicated their responsibility to question these experts and look to the evidence or source documents to remain informed and set reasonable policy. Experts provide data and analysis. Policymakers use that to inform policy decisions. Bureaucrats and narrowly specialized experts are not qualified and should not make policy. That is the sole purview of officials like yourselves elected to represent their constituents. I think we have largely forgotten that over the past 2 years. I will leave you with this. Tonight, I'm heartened that all school children in the United Kingdom have returned to normal school as of today. No masks, no mandates. As a nation, they have made the difficult decision to aggressively correct course and to move on. Though it pains me to say, you should look abroad. You should look to their example and immediately return to mask optional, do away with the restrictive and unscientific policies that quarantine healthy kids, and get back to focusing on the lost learning that will be years making up, if ever. Despite the current spike in case rate, no one in Craven County is dying from Omicron, not even the old, obese, or otherwise at risk. But kids are still hurting themselves. Kids are still ODing. Kids are still suffering. How long do we need to continue this, and when does it end? Based on the most recent data from December of last year, Craven County is the seventh worst county out of the 100 in the entire state of North Carolina for health harm, particularly among young girls. Before you go to bed tonight, another American child will take their own life, and at least 1 or 2 more before you wake up in the morning. None will die of COVID. Please take the masks off and actually see these kids again, listen to them, protect them by looking out for their well-being and giving them the education that will unlock the unbounded potential of each student. Tonight, I again urge you to please be bold, stand resolute in a firm belief that the overwhelming actual scientific evidence supports a return to normal school and not the continuation of ineffective policies that remain the status quo throughout the state of North Carolina. Like in the UK and in other states in our great union, this will only end when you decide it ends. Decide now, keep all healthy kids in the classroom, and let the parents decide what's best for their children. Thank you. And I would like to publicly thank the 2 of you. You will be the saviors of your generation in spite of the failures of mine and my parents.
Thank you, Mr. Farr. Our next speaker is Leah, and I'm sorry, is it Kenniger? Krieger, I'm sorry, Krieger.
Thank you for your time tonight. I'm really nervous, but I am a concerned parent. I have 2 kids at Bangor Elementary, and since they have been wearing masks all day, I've noticed my daughter does this weird breathing thing where she goes like this. She's never done that before. And when I approached our pediatrician about it, I got the nurse, and the nurse spoke to him, and he said, there's nothing in their chart that would indicate they need a mask exemption. So I'm left with no options. My son loves school. And when he heard that mask mandates were back, he said he did not want to go. This is completely unnormal for him. And I just want to emphasize the fact that there are no long-term studies that show what these masks are doing to our children, both physically and mentally. We have no evidence that shows that they are safe. I also want to point out that they're not wearing them appropriately. You ask any teacher, you walk into any school, there are gaps on the sides, they're pulling them down constantly. So in my mind, they're ineffective. They're just a piece of cloth. And recently, even the mainstream media, doctors, organizations are admitting that they are useless. So what are we doing? Why are we letting fear drive our decisions? Why are we listening to bureaucrats? We need to listen to actual science and parents in the community. What we want is no mask mandate. Make it optional, please. And I would like to give the rest of my time to Heather if she's able to speak.
Mr. Gash, how we on time?
No, we didn't.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Krieger. Our final speaker then is Yolanda Dean.
Hello, thank you for having me tonight and allowing me to come up and speak. I like what you said, respect, and that's what we all should live in and persevere for, is the respect of each other. I'm here, I'm an asthmatic. I walk around with this thing constantly, trying to get good air in because sometimes my lungs shut down. When I have to wear a mask, it kills me because I feel like an elephant has just jumped on my chest and it's taken me down. I am so proud of you two. As a mother, as a woman, as a person who sends her kids to school, I want to congratulate their teachers because they clearly are learning something. I heard your voices. I hope you all hear their voices. They want to see their face. As a mom, when I gave birth to my babies, I couldn't stop staring at their living faces. Seeing these kids behind these masks, and I have 7 children, and their friends come to my house, and all the things that they're saying, and the fact that they hate school. Man, when I was little, I loved going to school. I couldn't wait for that 20-minute go outside, play some kickball, baseball, get with my friends. It seems like all their fun is being stuffed out and they're being masked. I'd rather see us get the respect. For those that want to keep it on, you keep it on. But let those who need to breathe in clean oxygen. I have a son who is deaf. These masks do nothing for him. He needs to see you. You have stopped his language because he can't see you. He has been yelled at by people because they think he can hear just because they can't see his disability. Scolded. And when he tries to say, but they don't want to listen. It is about respect. It's about listening to these kids. They're not happy. And when I see the children sad, depressed, withdrawing, I'm saying we have an issue. It's not even about me being a mom. It's about them. What is the best for them? The CDC has flip-flopped so much, it's ridiculous. They've got me confused. And I'm adult, I'm educated, but the education they're given, it's very, very confusing. When people had HIV, I didn't see people wearing plastic gloves, keeping 6 feet apart, because I heard when you got near their cut, it could pass from your blood to their blood to your blood. And now here we are in masks. I had COVID a while ago. I lived through it, and I'm an asthmatic. It was tough. I'm not saying it was easy. It was tough. And I think we're now, even according to the science and everything that I've been listening through, we are on the down spiral of it. Everybody that's getting it is making it through. They've classified it as a common cold. I say, listen to these kids, let their voices be heard. They want the masks off, and I want to see them be happy again. And I hope you will do that for them. Give them the choice. For those that want to live behind the mask, let them do that. I will respect, I'll stay 6 feet away. I'll walk across the street for you. That's how much I respect my brothers and sisters. But let's get back to letting these kids get back into the love of learning, which I know you two have because you obviously paid attention, and you paid attention because you love to learn. And that's what I want to see, our children loving their teachers again, because I had me some good teachers. I had a couple bad ones, but I had ones that I couldn't wait to get to school to see them. And that's what I want to see brought back again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Chairman, remember that concludes our public input.
I'd like to thank you for your public input tonight, each one of you. And at this time, I'm going to ask our superintendent if she would do the COVID updates for us.
I will briefly go over some of the data that I went over with you earlier this week, and also some updated data that we've had since Tuesday. I will briefly go through the North Carolina cases in December. Mr. Severa's going to follow along. There you go. And Craven County cases in December. Full vaccination by age through January 13th. Next, daily reported positives in Craven County schools. This is from 11/1 to 12/3. Red being students, blue being staff. The next slide is from December 6th to January 11th. Again, blue staff, red students. The next slide is November daily quarantines. And December daily quarantines. The level of transmission in the state of North Carolina, remember, we all wanted to get to that yellow. The next shows where the state was in November. Next slide, where we are in January. As you know, there are two things we look at to get to that moderate or yellow status. One is the new cases per 100,000 in the past 7 days, and the other is the percent of positivity rate. November 14th, we were at 64.6% at new cases and 1.94, which put us in the blue actually for percent positives. Then in December, 156.55 cases, 4.16 positivity. And now in January, 1,093.61 new cases and 27.59% positivity. So the board has asked me for quarantine comparisons. If you'll go to the next slide, this will show you November 2020 and November 2021 and December 2020 and December 2021. And I'll just leave that there for a second for you to look at those numbers. Next, we'll discuss safety protocols. We are allowing visitors in the building. Of course, they must adhere to the established protocols. Athletic events and band participation are allowed to follow the established protocols. Mask required for spectators. All field trips are open for requesting approval, both overnight and day field trips, and all activities and events are open with protocols in place. Next, the COVID protocol implementation. We're going to talk about the three toolkits or guides that we use to make decisions, and I'm going to turn it over to Nurse Mack.
Good evening, board members. Good evening, staff, students, our community leaders. I would like to just review where we currently are. We know that back on December 30th, our Strong Schools NC Public Health Toolkit was updated, where our quarantine was changed from a 10-day, 7-day to a 5-day with a 5-day mask from day 6 through day 10. It was then updated again on January 7th and January 10th. The significant updates from the January 7th and the January 10th included that if you are a mask required setting, in other words, if the school is a mask mandated school, if one or both parties are wearing a mask, if an exposure occurs during an unmasked event, such as lunch or an extracurricular activity, someone tests positive for COVID, you do not have to quarantine any of the individuals. So when we would have individuals that would test positive and they were in a classroom for 1 or 2 days before we knew they were positive, they had had lunch, they had done extracurricular activities, we would have to quarantine entire classrooms. Now, with this update with the toolkit, which is from NCDHHS, the Department of Public Instruction, with references of the CDC, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and our local health department, we do not have to quarantine entire classrooms. There are situations where exemptions occur, such as those who have had COVID in the last 90 days, those that are fully vaccinated, whether they're with booster eligibility in place, and those individuals that are masked. And as long as you're not having symptoms and you're in a mask mandated setting, you do not have to quarantine. So for us, as our mission and our vision statement to keep all our learners in the building, This will help reduce our quarantine, and we have the data that can confirm it. And this will help keep our students in school in face-to-face learning. Next slide, please. We also have to follow in our pre-K programs, the Child Care Strong School Public Health Toolkit. It was updated back in October of 2021. And at 10 o'clock on January 13th, they updated it again. The update that occurred is pretty much aligned with the K-12 in that if you are exposed and you have been, if you're vaccination eligible, you would not have to quarantine. However, if you are unable to wear a mask and you have a household member that has COVID, then you would have to quarantine. And because of whether or not you can mask or not, you would have to quarantine for up to 10 days. Because with the alignment like the K-12, it's 5 days, the first day after the exposure, after symptom onset, and then 5 days of mask from 6 to 10. And if you can't mask, you would have to still be out the 10 days. Our next toolkit that we follow, next slide, please, is the interim guidance for administrators and participants of youth and amateur sports programs. This was updated in August of 2021. This was through NCDHHS. This looked at all of our sports activities and it put them in a high, medium, and low risk profile. The determination was based on not just, it wasn't based on mask. It was based on the prolonged time that individuals were in physical activity where they weren't wearing masks. So some of the events included football, basketball, wrestling, competitive cheerleading. Some medium events included softball, baseball, track, field, low risk events including swimming, diving, golfing, etc. So as you can see, as a school system, we're challenged because just when we have the toolkits down, things change. But what doesn't change is the fact that we want to all work together so that we can keep our staff and our students safe and we can keep them in school. Next slide, please. So our quarantine information, I think I reviewed the changes and you can go to the next slide. Thank you. As you can see, our COVID symptoms have not changed. So should you have or present with any one of these symptoms, these are considered COVID-like symptoms and you have several options. You can opt to test. You can go to your healthcare provider, you can receive an alternate diagnosis, or you don't have to do anything. So depending on what option you choose, you would still have to quarantine for 5 days unless you received an alternate diagnosis. If you should test for COVID and you're not exposed and you test negative, as long as you're fever-free for 24 hours without taking a fever-reducing agent such as Tylenol, Motrin, ibuprofen, and your symptoms are improving, you can return back to work and school. If you've been exposed to someone and you're vaccinated, if you are booster eligible and you are not having symptoms, this has just changed. It was you had to receive your booster at least 6 months from your second series, if you had a 2-shot series, or 2 months after your first shot, whether you got a J&J shot or not. It is now 5 months. If you are booster eligible and you choose not to receive the booster and you've been exposed or should develop symptoms, you would have to quarantine. If you're vaccinated, whether you're booster eligible or not, depending on your age, and you're not having symptoms, you would not have to quarantine. Next slide, please. Before I summarize basically what I've just said, I would like to share with you some data from today. Those 23 nurses that were sitting here, all the data that you've looked at today were collected by them. They have done a phenomenal job. So today, we have had a total of 76 positives in our district today. We have had to quarantine a total of 883 are quarantined, 782 are students, 101 were staff, 62 were teachers, and 7 were bus drivers. What we have also done this week is we have started COVID testing. So those that opt in, you can be tested at the school that you opt in. The nurse, we have the option where you can curbside test, so you don't have to come in the building. We have over 1,300 in our school system that have opted in. And today, our percent positivity is right at 27%, which is exactly aligned with the state of North Carolina and with Craven County. We have the ability to perform rapid tests. You can have your result in 15 minutes, or PCR. PCR is 24 hours from the time the specimen is received in the lab until they can process it. Some lab results have taken up to 36 hours because of the time they were received. The key takeaway here is Craven County Schools has provided lots of options to keep everyone in school and everyone safe. So if you end up being quarantined and you are in a mask optional setting, the likelihood that you will be quarantined again is highly likely if you do not have a reason to be exempted. If we're in a mask required school system, per the ABC Science Collaborative from the Duke Clinical Research Institute that was published in December of 2022, individuals do not have to be excluded from school after a close contact, including an unmasked exposure, such as lunch or an extracurricular activity, and you do not have symptoms and you do not have a mask exemption, you do not have to quarantine. Next slide, please. COVID testing, you can go to our next slide, please. And go to the next one. This is our opt-in data. This was as of 2 o'clock today. We have 1,393 staff and students that have opted in to test. I understand the number of students and staff we have in the Craven County Schools, but as I have worked with our Mako Lab state contracted vendor representative, Craven County Schools opted in very quickly with an enormous abundance of people. And they looked at the number of tests that we have performed in 3 days and have been amazed. The interesting piece is the 27% positivity had we have not had testing as an option. And if these individuals had not had access to care, they would have been in our building. Our quarantine numbers would be higher and we have a lot sicker people. So testing in our school system is definitely one of our strong mitigations for the strategy to reduce the spread of this virus. Next slide, please. So here's your COVID testing update. On the 18th of January, which was on Tuesday, which is our first day of testing, we tested 31 staff, 41 students. On the 19th, we tested 27 staff and 60 students. And today we tested 15 students and 15 staff and 28 students. Our percent positivity for all 3 groups, the first day was 33.3%, second day was 27.6%, and today was 25%. And if you look at the North Carolina daily numbers and the Craven County numbers, we are aligned with the data within our state and our county. Next slide, please. Before I turn this back over to Dr. Miller, I would like to say one thing. Our numbers in Craven County, we had 1,505 new cases. We had a 28% positivity. We have 55 new hospital admissions today at our hospital. Our state had 29,580 new cases with a 33% positivity, and 4,741 are currently hospitalized in the state of North Carolina. Our job as Craven County Schools is to continue the mission and the vision of our district and to continue the strategies that we have in place so we can mitigate this virus. We still have a lot of work to do. But together, as a community, as parents, as teachers, as students, as school leaders, and board members, we can all come together and do what's best for our Craven County schools. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And as I share with you each month, the next slide shows the school districts across North Carolina and their current mask policies. Blue being mandatory, red optional, and then there's some other colors that are kind of doing some more unique things. The next slide reminds everyone that in early January, the Board of Education made the decision to go back to mask required, but did say they would revisit that decision tonight. And the board has to revisit that once a month, but our board decided to look at it again in hopes, I'm guessing that the numbers look better. So the next item I have for you tonight is the two mask policies. One being mask mandatory is the current policy you have, and the other is mask optional. Before you discuss that, are there any questions?
Dr. Miller?
Yes, sir.
Surrounding counties, have we had surrounding counties that have had to be out of school?
Yes, sir. Several schools closed at the end of last week and the beginning of this week due to either high rates of COVID in their schools or staff shortages due to COVID.
Thank you.
They were mask optional districts. Ms. Mees.
Ms. Mees.
How close have we come to having to shut down a school being a mask mandatory district?
I've only had one principal reach out to me concerned with numbers of staff, but at this point we are able to manage. But as the young fellow shared, you know, the teachers are having to be creative, but at this point we are not close to closing down a school.
Anyone has any more questions?
Well, you explained how the toolkit was working out. I might have heard wrong, but it sounded like, were you saying if two kids removed their mask and one was positive, that neither child had to be quarantined? If that was a mask mandated school?
Yes.
Even though
at
they
lunch
both
or
had
at
their mask
athletics.
on?
Yes, sir.
That doesn't seem like it makes sense.
That was the change.
That doesn't make sense. If they both take their mask off, just because we're a mask mandated school.
That's the new toolkit.
Could you explain the logic behind that for us?
Yeah.
Sure. So the study that showed that a lot of the exposures were happening in unmasked, such as lunch and extracurricular activity. When they looked at about 359 students over 5 districts that were fully mask mandated, only 1.7% were in-school transmissions. So the result of that study showed that if you had prolonged mask wearing, you did not have to consider those in the unmasked as being an exposure. So that's where the mask mandated required setting and the change in the toolkit occurred.
Okay, I understand now.
Okay. Ms. Muse?
But if Mr. Dove and I were at New Bern High School in the 11th grade. And he's exposed to my COVID during lunch, but we're a mask mandatory school. He doesn't have to quarantine.
The individual that is positive would have to quarantine.
Because I exposed him, he wouldn't have to quarantine.
Correct.
But if I exposed him in English, he's gonna have to quarantine. He's gonna have to quarantine too.
No,
He
no,
won't.
he will not.
Okay, because lunch is always specifically mentioned. It's never a classroom.
And that's due to the likelihood that once the mask goes back on, there's a high probability that COVID wasn't given to that person during an unmasked situation
Because of the.
because of the
Yes.
total day of wearing masks.
Yes, sir.
So it reduces the likelihood. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else?
Are we supposed to ask all our questions now? Okay, because I have a lot.
I really do. too.
I got a lot, but I don't want any answers. I just want to ask questions. Because most good teachers know the answers to the questions that they ask. These are just some questions for thought.
Lawyers do that too, Ms. King.
They do. That's why I should have been one. How many average students are in a class? How many substitutes do we have currently in schools? How often are we sanitizing classrooms and who's doing it? Are we sitting 6 feet or even 3 feet apart? How many students are on a bus? Are students sitting 6 feet or even 3 feet apart on a bus? Those are just some of my questions. Just one comment for nurse, and I certainly agree with you about the statement that you made, keep learners in buildings and keep learners in schools. And I certainly agree with that. But to me, that's just a small fraction of what we need to make sure that we're doing. Because as I look at the number of substitutes who are currently in schools, and just the frustration from my own principal today, we're doing a lot of babysitting. Okay, so we're keeping them in school, but the quality of instruction is not taking place because you don't have the qualified people to teach those classes, even during a mandated time in those schools. The other thing, and I want to thank Dr. Miller and Mr. Swain. I didn't mean for them to do this so quickly today. I'm not one of those people, I asked something and then I want it that next minute, but they jumped right on it. They probably said, why in the world does she want this? I asked because, I believe in mandates. I believe in following the law, but I think most of you know by now, I think an equal part of that is enforcement, not just mandating. And so I asked what were the number of suspensions that we've had due to our mask policy violation since we've had in place since August. And of the 25 schools, we only had one school who has suspended students due to masks. I'm not jumping on any administrator for not, but what I am seeing is that I know, as referenced by our students here, that we have students every day who are sitting like I am right now. And I'm not saying that suspension is the only tool that we can have, but it's probably, I'm wondering what are we doing to mandate, to enforce what we're mandating? Because if we're going to continue to spin this wheel, then we're not really getting anywhere. That's just, those are my questions for thought, not for answer.
Thank you. Kelly?
Miss King
I'm
is.
sorry, then Mr. Dove.
Miss King's right. It was decided that we be a mask mandatory district on what day was it, January 6th or something? I go to work every day and I don't wear one. I wear one here because it was a board decision to do that. And while I appreciate y'all's rights, we have made this a mandatory mask district, and this is our board meeting where we're in charge. They're not wearing masks. If we're not going to enforce it at our own meeting, how are we supposed to expect principals to enforce it with students? Because we are supposed to lead by example, and we're not.
Who's not wearing it?
1, 2. Mhm.
Oh.
This is on the door, you have to have a maximum limit.
Well, I think the people won't wear one either though, so.
But it's our meeting and we don't have to allow them into our meeting if they choose not to follow our rules and our mandate.
Are
then
you
we
going to
shouldn't let
stand
them
to
in
the
the
door
future.
and tell them not to come in, Ms. Muse?
I didn't vote to put.
The way I voted for it, but I'm not going to stand to the
I know,
door.
but you know what
I mean,
I'm saying?
I'm not going to stand to the
That's
door.
what I'm saying. It's such a precarious situation. That's why optional optional just works.
I don't understand why people don't understand this. For one, I understand this is a school district. We need to lead by example, but this is not school. This is not school right now. Can you clarify one thing for me? When we were mask optional, our numbers were worse. And now that we're back mask mandated, they're better.
And I can't remember every single number since.
Right, not every
then.
number, but overall.
But yes, overall, because what was happening is we were having exposures and we were having positives. A lot of times, our students would be in the building and they'd be sick and we didn't know about it. And they were exposing other students, and then other students would go home and they would be sick. And then they would test and we would get the results back. And a lot of times by the time we got the results back, they had exposed quite a few students. And then our quarantine numbers went up. And then you could look at the county numbers as they went up, because at the time we didn't have specific district numbers because we weren't testing. But now that we're testing, we have our own percent positive numbers we can track. We also know the number of individuals that are testing positive within our school system that opt in to test, that we didn't have that data before. All we had were our quarantine numbers and the reported positives that were given to us, and they were high. Okay.
Because even with the teachers having to tell children to pull masks up, if masks are being worn, the study that you stated earlier shows, regardless if you have to tell them, pull it up, pull it up, pull it up. If they're pulling it up, the fact that they're wearing it for a majority of the day reduces the numbers. It just behooves me that everybody gets so upset. To me, I'm gonna be honest. Be mad at me if you want. People are talking from a selfish place when we're trying to keep kids in school. I mean, you bring up studies, now you want to bring up the UK. The UK peaked with their virus. That's what the news says. They have peaked. We haven't peaked yet. So if that's a fact, because I'm only reading, but they say they've peaked. When we peak, I will say the same thing. Let's relax with the mask. But we're not there yet. And everybody's shaking their head. I'm shaking mine too.
Can I add one
And
thing?
everybody else.
If we recall, Mr. Scott Harrelson, our health director for Craven County, made a statement on January the 6th and basically said that the peak it would take about 4 weeks and then another 2 weeks to come down the epic curve, which was 6 weeks. And it was going to get worse before it got better. And he recommended we follow the toolkit, and that was his statement.
I mean, it's a fact. They say COVID running 3.5 intervals, 4-month intervals. UK got hit before us. Then it came to us. They're at their peak time now. We will be at our peak time then, but everybody wants their way. And it's really ridiculous to me. If a child can't wear a mask, you get an exemption.
No comment from, you cannot make any comments. The board has a
I'm
right.
sorry for the parent. I'm not.
Yes, I know.
But I wish she could if her child has a problem, and I feel you.
Mhm.
My heart goes out to you because I don't want any child that's
Right.
having problems
Right.
with masks to wear them. So I'm very sorry that your doctor or your physician wouldn't see the light. I truly am. I'm speaking on those children that can wear them. And when we talk about the mental the mental state. I don't know what it is about the kids that I know in the community, but there's no mental issues with the kids that I know. None. It's no suicidal thoughts. If it's suicidal thoughts, I'm not a psychiatrist, but it might be something other than a mask. And maybe you need to get them checked out deeper. But I don't think it's the mask.
Okay, Ms. Muse, okay, let me go back again. Let me go back again before we go back around and to say this. Let us treat each other with dignity and respect. We all got different opinions. But the children are our main concern. And it's not what we say, but how we choose to say it. And let us not put personal thing in it, but let us do what's right. Again, let us treat each other with dignity and respect. When the board is talking, we don't have any comments from stakeholders. Just like we didn't give any comments when you all spoke. That's the rule. And when we do that and respect each other, whether we agree or not, we can maintain order in the meeting. Ms. Muse.
I ask this all the time, so out of quarantine, how many positives do we end up getting out of how many quarantines? So when we present data from now on, I would like to see, we've got 368 kids quarantined and 352 positive or 12 positive. I want to know from now on how many quarantines result in how many positives every time the data is presented.
I think they can do that with no problem. I don't think that would be a problem. Dr. Miller, do you want us to give the public input first?
Yeah, I think of those two. They got their hand.
Okay, I'm coming back to them. Do you want, before we proceed, would you like to proceed or do we go back before you give a recommendation, what you plan, what the recommendation is?
I think the agenda does say to discuss public input.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So
Okay.
we getting out. So I think at this time, we can, let me hear from Ms., who was first? Mr. Alpart, and then Ms. Clark, if she has anything to say. And then we will go back and address the public input, if we have anything to say. Mr. Alpart.
Thank you, Chairman Boomer. To Mr. Dove's point, if I remember correctly, in the couple of year history, we had one cluster in a school. And then we passed the mask optional, and that was followed by, if I'm not mistaken, 5 clusters. It almost shut one of our schools down. Mrs. Mack can speak to that if my memory is correct, but it was pretty quick. As you remember, we passed mask optional a couple of weeks before we were going into the holidays, and what transpired pretty quickly was the spreading in schools. So that is still a concern that I have, of course.
Okay. Ms. Clark.
I just have one question of Nurse Mack, please. Nurse Mack?
She's listening. Yep, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I think I know, but I want you just to come out and say it again. What is your recommendation?
My recommendation as a district lead nurse for the Craven County Schools is that we maintain our mask mandate setting.
Thank you. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And at this time, I would like to invite, I'll start with you. Let me start on this end. Ms. Muse, your hand was up. We'll start with you and we'll go all around if you have any comments to make.
regarding public input?
Yes.
I understand that masks work for some children and some families. And I understand that masks aren't a great option for others. And I will say once again, when we vote tonight, I will vote mask optional. Because that meets everyone's needs.
Ms. Smith?
It's hard to lead right now, anything. It's hard to lead a business and keep it staffed. It's hard to lead a church and keep it open. It's hard to lead anywhere right now, especially when nobody can agree. And I absolutely have an enormous amount of empathy for you and other parents who are, and children who are struggling with it. But as a leader up here, we have to look at the big picture. And the big picture for me is not, I don't think that Omicron is going to kill people at the numbers the other variants have. But what I have seen it doing is completely diminishing the ability of a business to stay open because of the number of staff that are out. I have seen every school district around us that was optional out of school because they can't staff their buildings. I've seen churches have to close because it's gone through with wildfire. They can't get their staffs open. Today, a bank had to close because they couldn't staff the building of the people out. So staffing, keeping our kids in school and keeping our staff as many as are possible to work has to be the priority. And when you look at the big picture, you know, I've been doing this a long time, there's always somebody that it doesn't work for. And we do our level best to make a decision. And I hear all of you. And I hear the parents who say, listen to the parents. But the problem is we have 10,000 students, each with one or more parents, and they're not all saying the same thing. The quiet ones have emailed us all week long. My email has been swamped with people who won't come in here tonight, but want them to be mask mandated. And the difference is sometimes if you see the ones that speak to us, they're the same people each week. But the people that are emailing me by the hundreds at this point are not the same people. They're different people. They're different parents. They're different students. They're different staff members who, it's hard to, you know, when you care about people, this is a really difficult position because some say you care about the staff. And I totally hear that. We're asking the staff to do a whole lot. And then I've got the other staff who says, thank you for caring about me because I'm worried about my health, or my grandmother who's home with stage 4 cancer, or my child who's home. And so the thing is, nobody can agree on this right now on what is best. And so as leaders, we do our level best. And I make my decision, not because I'm scared of the virus, but because I want our hospitals to still be able to see people. I want our banks to be able to be open. I want our churches to be able to be open. I want our schools to be able to be open, because a lot of children, whether we're able to give them exactly what we would before, we're able to lay eyes on them. We're able to lay eyes on them and know that they're okay. And for me, that's something right now, because we're all struggling for somebody to lay eyes on us and recognize that we're all struggling. So I understand the mental health issues. And there's so many factors that affect mental health issues besides the mask. I mean, the way we treat each other, the way we care for each other, the way that people are financially struggling because they're out of work. They don't have leave anymore, all kinds of things that are struggling with people. So, I want everybody who spoke tonight to understand that I did hear you. I don't agree with all of you. Every time you send me an email, I do read everything that you send me. I might not agree with it all because I have a lot of medical professionals that I listen to on a regular basis and who I trust. And so I read it. That doesn't mean I'm going to agree with it, but I certainly respect your opinions. And I will continue to do that no matter how many times you stand up here. And one day you'll stand up here on something that I will agree with you on, and we can work to make our system a better place. But right now, this is where we are. So I hear you, I respect you, but there's a lot of voices besides yours speaking right now.
Ms. King?
If we're just commenting on what we heard tonight, I just want to say thank you for taking a stand. Because sometimes it seems like people that want to say what they want to say don't say what they want to say until after decisions are made. And that's the problem that I have. If there's something that you feel like needs to be said, I think you need, and you're gonna stand behind what you say, then say it. So I do appreciate you coming out to voice your opinion. I do want to say this because I have to clear this up. I don't see it as being selfish. I do see sometimes that we see what we see because we're in our own world, and you can only speak to the world that you're in. And I don't consider that being selfish. I consider it just being that you just see what you see. You can only see your part of the world. And this is a very different world that we're in right now. And a lot of people are having different experiences with the same thing. So we're all going through the same thing, but we all have different experiences with that one thing that is controlling our world right now. It seems like it's just in control of all of us. But I just say to all the speakers that were able to come out and to voice what you believe is the best option for our school system, we say thank you. I tell you, I fight this battle each and every day. It keeps me up at night. When I go into school, it's a battle. And when I'm get on the school bus, it's a battle. And that is the world that I live in. So I can only speak from the world that I am in. And I speak from it on behalf of the people that I see dealing with this each and every day. It's easy. It's sometimes easier to make the decision when you're not in the world. Okay. But when you are in the world, sometimes it's not as, easy. It's a little different. It's a little different feel, but just thank you. Thank you to our students who are brave, because you have to be brave to come out and speak in front of a forum such as this. And we want to say, regardless of what our decision is on tonight, I am a believer in whatever we're going to do, I'm going to do it. That's the way I was raised. I was raised that you may not agree, but you will comply. Yeah. But I was also raised that if you don't comply, there are some consequences. Right. Okay, there are some consequences. That's why we didn't repeat the actions over and over again, because there were consequences for our actions. So thank you, students. Nothing flies higher than an eagle. Is that right? Thank you all for coming tonight and speaking.
Mr. Dove, thank you.
Well, I agree with everything you said, except I do think people are being selfish, because to be selfish is to think of yourself, your family, and it's all of us are selfish in some things. But when facts have been given to us that states through this Strong's toolkit that if both children wear masks, then the one that's not infected can stay in school. The facts are that the schools around us that are not mask mandated are closing. The fact is, everyone wants their children to be in school. The fact is, it will not happen if we're not wearing masks, but yet everyone can still say we want to be mask optional because of this, that, and the third. That is being selfish. So that I disagree with. I stand on it. I don't mean to offend anybody. I've been selfish on things in life, but on this situation, people are being selfish because the facts state to keep our children in school, they both must have masks on. And there's no way around that. If we want our kids in school, if we want the schools to stay open, they must be mask mandated. Do I want them with masks on? No, I don't. Do I think Omicron is that serious? No, I don't. But as stated, banks are closing. A business that I have, I can't even get my orders out because 26 people are out on COVID leave and infected, not just quarantining, they're infected. And this is out of Georgia. The fact of the matter is, to keep the schools open, we must have the mask mandate, no matter how much all of us, including myself, do not like it. But that's the only way to do it. I mean, and to me, and don't take this offensively, that's common sense to have to do that. Everyone, when we are given this set of facts, how to keep the school open, it's common sense that daggone it, we have to do this, regardless if we want to or not. Point blank, period. That's all it is to it. I mean, I don't understand why people don't understand that and why people still want to bring the studies and other countries and Sweden studies for North Carolina to keep New Bern, Craven County schools open, according to the toolkit. In order to trick the toolkit, we have to be mask mandated, point blank. Just we have to accept it. Now, if my vote doesn't get it that way, so be it. I'm gonna roll with you all, and I'm not gonna go home mad about it if we're optional. But I'm gonna use my common sense from the facts been given to me and vote that way. And I hope everybody can understand that, because the facts are the facts, regardless if you like it or not. You want your child in school, sir. We have to have the mask on them to keep them there. If not, just like the surrounding schools, we'll be closed too, and you'll be home with your child.
All right, Ms. Clark?
I would be redundant at this point, Madam Chair. I think
Okay.
we're soon to call the question.
Mr. Ipot?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, I'm good as well. I do like to thank the students, and like I said, I appreciate your bravery for coming out, and it takes a lot of courage to do what you did tonight. And for my young parent back there, my heart goes out to you. And I was, if I were in your situation, I would just get me a second opinion. If you feel like your child really need an exemption. There are other doctors in New Bern, and it doesn't matter of Jacksonville or wherever you want it to go. Me personally, I'm just saying, if that were the case, and my heart does go out, and I know you hurt for your children.
Mine too. I'm
And
sorry.
so, but I would just suggest to you that you perhaps need, if that is the case, to get a second opinion from someone else. And having said that, Dr. Miller, I think enough has been already said. I think that we need to go forward and make a decision.
Well, do you have a recommendation?
We don't need it, really.
Yeah, we do need a recommendation.
I mean,
What is, we do need.
She's leading the system. She's
We've
in
been
charge.
given-
Well, Kim, we don't need to keep
We've
telling her
been
that she's
given a
leading the system.
Well, I mean,
recommendation
I was
from
saying
the
it to
facts.
Victor, not to her. I was saying it to Victor.
She knows that. And I think that she
Let me
does.
say something. Let me say something.
I think she does have a recommendation. Okay.
Yeah, I was saying that to Victor, not her.
But let me say something before she speaks. We know what we're gonna vote right now. Why do we need their recommendation? If we're the
Because we
board,
have to have a motion. So we have to have a
well, I'll
motion.
make the motion. And I make the motion that we continue to keep the mandate on children. Can I get a second?
I want Dr. Miller to give us we didn't get a second, so the motion is dead. So I would like for Dr. Miller to give us a recommendation and why she believes that is what we want to do.
I wrote down some comments.
Uh-oh.
And I too heard everything the parent said tonight and received numerous emails.
Okay, no comment, please.
As we've learned during the pandemic, going to
Miss-
school,
That's what exemptions are for. And I hope they all get them.
Victor, you don't have to.
I didn't call her name, ma'am, but I feel that some people are self-esteem.
Let it go.
as we've learned during the pandemic, going to school in person is how our students learn best. The benefits of in-person school are much greater than the risk in almost every single way. Schools are safe, stimulating, and enriching places to be while parents and guardians have to work. Children and adolescents receive more in our schools than just academics. They learn social and emotional skills. They get exercise, they make friends, and they have access to other support services. For many families, many of the ones that are not here to speak tonight, schools are where their children get a healthy meal, where they have access to an internet.
Could I ask you to stop for just a minute until because we would love for them to be able to hear what you're saying. I think it's important that they hear what. Okay.
Start over again, Wendy.
Okay,
Dr. Miller, I'm sorry, please.
Children and adolescents receive more than academics in our school every day. They learn social and emotional skills. They get exercise. They make friends. They have access to counseling and support services. For many of the families, many that were not here tonight, because these parents are brave, I commend them for coming and speaking on behalf of their children. But there are many families where School is the place their children get a healthy meal. The only place they have access to the internet and other vital services that maybe their parents don't have access to. Other than home, school is the only place that children spend a great deal of their day. Teachers have the opportunity and the potential to create safe places in our schools and our classrooms. School nutrition has the opportunity to provide a warm meal, and our staff every single day provides love and nurturing to our children. Masking continues to be a debate. I'll be honest, I don't know if they work or not. I've read studies that say they do. I've read studies that say they don't. I've seen debates about cloth versus N95s. But what is clear to me is students learn best when they're in front of their teachers. Our students and our staff need to be in school. Based on the updated toolkit, exposures in a mask mandated school district excludes children for 5 days, and then we can get them back in front of their teachers. In mask optional districts, they still remain home for 10. Our students have missed so much learning, so many friends to be made, and so many opportunities in the last 2 years. I look forward to seeing their smiles one day again. But tonight I have to recommend we stay mask mandated to keep our kids in school.
I need to get a motion to mandate masking for until we meet to the next meeting? To mandate mask, we'll continue to have mask mandate.
I'll second Mr. Dove's motion.
Yeah. And I'll say that, now that we're in discussion, I just want to say that's why I wanted you to speak. Because it's difficult to lead in a situation like this. It's incredibly difficult. And when you speak, people know how difficult it is. And so I appreciate you doing that. And I appreciate you as a brand new superintendent doing it in this unprecedented time.
She was going to speak. That's why I said what I said.
Yeah.
She was going to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just needed to, but there was confusion.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we need to do things in decency and in order. And that's why I said what I said. She was going to speak. So we don't want it to look like that she was not going to speak
Right.
until that statement was made, because that's not true.
Right.
It's obvious that she was going to speak because she already had prepared what she was going to say.
Yeah.
So are there any more discussion? If not, I need to have a roll call vote.
Or do you have a motion?
I thought I did.
Yeah, the motion was made by Mr. Dove and seconded by Mr. Ipock.
Okay, I need to get a motion that we will continue to mandate masking.
Mr. Ipock made the motion. It just needs to be seconded.
I need somebody to second it.
He said seconded, Dove. So I'll second Mr. Ipock.
It has been moved and second that we continue the mask mandate. Are you ready for the question?
Yes.
And now we're going to entertain a roll call vote.
Ms. Frances Boomer?
Yes.
Ms. Naomi Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Victor Dove?
Yes.
Mr. Carl Ipock?
Yes.
Ms. Stephanie King?
I'm gonna follow my superintendent. Yes.
Ms. Kelly Muse?
I love my superintendent and I understand every word you said, but there are so many people that need to know that they have support, that optional is okay, so no.
Ms. Kimberly Smith?
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum, mask mandatory.
Thank you. And at this time, Dr. Mill, I would ask that you facilitate a plus delta for us, please.
And I'll remind the audience, there's a plus delta out in the hall, so we would take your feedback as well. And the board continues to look at that in an effort to continuously improve. So in thinking about your mission tonight, what worked, what went well?
I like the fact that the students came for public input. We always like to see our children get involved. And Miguel, thank you for coming back tonight. Our
Yes.
student representative.
Yes.
We appreciate you being here tonight. We really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
He's a future either teacher, superintendent, or board member.
I thought he was the principal.
All three.
Yeah, all three of them, all three of them. Yeah.
We appreciate you being here.
What else worked for you, board members?
Our superintendent's heart.
I appreciated all the comments, even though people might not have thought I heard them, but I did. I listened, and I always appreciate to hear what the people have to say.
Nurse Mack and our nurses. It's positive for tonight and every night, but
Also appreciate.
oh, go ahead.
I also appreciate it today, like you, I got so many emails today, new emails from different people. So I look at that as being part of this meeting because it was for this meeting. So I appreciate all of the people that emailed us today because a lot of them were group emails that kind of supported our position. So I can appreciate that because we didn't used to hear that a lot. But it seems like something has happened and now it's just coming out of the woodworks.
What else worked tonight?
I appreciated being flexible with the agenda so that we could get this important work done and be home at a decent time.
Anything else that worked? Mr. Ipock or Ms. Clark?
I really appreciated the recognitions and having people actually present for the recognitions. I wish that I could have been there.
Ms. Clark, do you have any pluses you would like to add?
No.
All right, in an effort to continuously improve, next time it would be even better if. A Delta.
We followed our ground rules. Why make the rules if we don't follow them?
Anything else?
It would have been better to have the students here, but I totally understand why they weren't. But I do want to acknowledge that we missed their presence in the room with us.
They are our why. Anything else for Delta?
I'm gonna kind of piggyback on Kelly. I don't usually piggyback, but I think definitely we need to show some order and set some examples for our students and our audience. Because if we're going to, have ground rules and then we don't follow them, then we don't really need to have, we need some order.
Anything else? Other Deltas?
I do have one more plus though that I thought could add. I need to acknowledge Heather is doing a phenomenal job getting our agendas ready, getting them to us and keeping us updated and the meeting's going well. So a lot of behind the scenes work, but we see you.
She's amazing. She's not behind the scenes for me.
She's good.
Anything else plus or Delta? All right, Madam Chair, then that will conclude that section and Heather has noted each of those for your later review.
Okay. Once again, we'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. We pray that you have safe travels back home and that you are prepared for what will transpire over the next few days. And we hope that our children will be well taken care of, and we know that they will. And so at this time, I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
It has been moved and seconded that the meeting be adjourned. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Has it meeting is adjourned. Y'all drive safely.
Francis.
I apologize. I got worked up when he got worked up, but I was just I know. I'm sorry. I got caught up. That's what I was saying, though. I knew she was. I knew she was.
We cannot have that sign out there and not take it, not do it. Well, sure. That's what I'm saying. So if they're not gonna do it, we will limit what we see. Right, they're seeing us, but they're also seeing teachers teaching. So what we do? Well, we're giving kids a school. No, when it's in school, yeah, they in school. I mean, I think elementaries are better. I think elementaries are better. Because they kind of do what you just told me to.
Who graduated from school with science and
Well, my friend got both vaccines and got booster and just had heart surgery and the epitome of health.
Arthur Monroe just lost his brother to
Well,
COVID.
he didn't get lost though. I'm talking about Everton Anderson.
Get what?
He got vaccinated. He got his booster.
Everton.
And his master's is in exercise science.
Yeah.
And he just had heart surgery.
Everton.
Some people just don't get it. Some people
What's
just
called COVID?
No, he didn't have COVID. He
Oh.
got vaccinated and
I
the
got
vaccine
you.
went to the artery.
Oh my God. That's Sean classmate.
Yeah, I know. He called me today.
Oh, Everton.
He called me.
And I'm so proud of him.
I mean, he.
And I'm so proud of him.
With family. But I'm saying it's still a good. I had heard something.
Thank you, Fran.
Thank you. You said it was
It's gonna be good.
my age.
Yeah. It's fast.
It's breaking families.
I had something else to say, but I'm not gonna get Okay, be safe. I'll text you.
Good night.
See ya.
All right, good night.
I'm gonna give her one to you, so y'all, because you've only heard one side of it.
And it's not like traditional cooking, but it is, you're having to write multi-line. Yeah, yeah, that sounds great.
You and Wifey, or hey, how about you and you? This, I gave